Egypt about 1450 BC. Kemet pushed through the small group of boys gathered outside the throne room of his father Ramses, the great pharaoh of Egypt. Were the rumors true? Had Moses, his father's long-lost adopted brother, really returned to Egypt? Was he here to grovel and beg for an honored place again in Egypt's royal family? Kemet knew about Moses. He had heard the story of his adopted uncle since he was a child. Born a Hebrew of the Israelite nation, Moses had been adopted as a baby into the royal family of Kemet's grandfather. Moses had every advantage, living a life of wealth and privilege in Pharaoh's household. But unbelievably, he threw that life away in one reckless act. Seeing an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, he intervened in defense of the Hebrew and killed the Egyptian. When Pharaoh learned of the killing, he was enraged and ordered Moses' death. In fear for his life, Moses fled Egypt and was never heard from again. That is until now. Could he possibly have returned after all these years? The other boys were quick to move aside for Kemet. He was Ramses' second born. Even the older boys feared him in the unpredictable rage he often displayed. Kemet peered anxiously into Ramses' throne room. Though the room was filled with beautiful carvings of many Egyptian gods, including Ra and Set, his eyes sought out his father sitting on the magnificent golden throne in the center of the room. He could barely believe his eyes. Standing before Ramses were two road-weary old men who looked far closer at the end of their lives than the beginning. One of them was leaning heavily on his walking staff. From the whispers behind him, Kemet realized one of the men was indeed Moses. The other was his Hebrew brother Aaron. Now he would see his father's wrath rain down on this outsider, who should never have been given a place in Egypt's royal family. This murdering Hebrew would get what was coming to him. There would be no great conflict. Pharaoh would just use his godlike powers to strike the men dead, in the time it took to swat one of Egypt's ever-present flies. Kemet jutted his head through the door a little bit more and strained to hear the conversation between his father and the man who was no doubt trying to push his way back into the family of the great Pharaoh Ramses. Moses, my long-lost brother, the Pharaoh said with a smirk on his face. Why have you returned from your desert wanderings? You come to show us where old bones lie? Kemet thought Moses would surely wilt under the glare that Ramses gave him. Instead, he heard Moses respond in his voice strong and clear. I have come to reclaim God's people for him. You need to let the Hebrew people leave this land. An angry scowl of suspicion appeared on Kemet's face. He was not sure what Moses and his brother were scheming, but somehow this man was seeking to usurp what Kemet greedily felt was his rightful place on the throne. Why doesn't my father command their immediate execution? If I was the supreme pharaoh, they would already be dead. As Kemet returned his attention to the two men and the pharaoh, he was shocked to see the one called Aaron cast his staff to the ground in seeming defiance of Ramses. Kemet watched his father intently, expecting him to order the palace guards to put the sword to these feeble old men. Kemet sucked in his breath as the pleasant threat of impending violence caused his heart to race, but he heard no command to kill. Instead, his father was staring transfixed at the spot where the staff had struck the polished marble floor. His eyes followed his father's gaze, and what he saw produced in him an immediate panic. The staff had become a large snake. He had always feared snakes, but the snake now writhing on the marble floor struck terror in his heart. This snake was larger than any snake he had ever seen. The serpent seemed to slither in place menacingly as the enormous forked tongue clipped the air, searching for who knows what kind of prey. Kemet knew some of his father's sorcerers could do some amazing tricks, but he had never seen anything like this. He was sure they did not possess the kind of power the staff held. As Pharaoh's sorcerers gathered around to match this feat, Kemet laughed nervously, but his laughter quickly turned to frustration, and his frustration to rage at the events he observed. A novice named Almed was the first sorcerer to attempt to duplicate this magic. Almed had only recently joined the ranks of the Pharaoh's magicians, and his bald head and outstretched hands seemed to tremble at this daunting task. Almed cast down his staff. Several guards joined Kemet in brief laughter as the staff transformed into a small yellow snake. The withered and ancient-looking sorcerer pushed Almed aside, made his way to the front of the Pharaoh's throne, and cast his staff in the gleaming marble squares. A small green snake about the length and width of the rod appeared and listlessly rolled on the floor. The sorcerer looked at Ramses nervously and then sought shelter at the back of the group of his peers. The last man to step up was a young sorcerer named Eret. Eret seemed more confident than the others, but Kemet had almost given up hope the magicians could match the power of the staff held. No sooner had Eret thrown his staff to the ground than the tongue of Aaron's serpent twitched in the air, darted in a supernatural fashion across the room and consumed Eret's snake, and quickly scooped up the other two snakes in its wide mouth as well and swallowed them down. The sorcerer jumped back, cowering in fear. Then to Kim's absolute astonishment, Aaron reached down, grabbed the large snake by the tail, and turned the serpent back into the walking staff again. Kim felt a growing rage at the ineptitude of the Egyptian sorceress. Feeding that rage was also his disappointment at the weakness his father had shown in dealing with these Hebrews. However, another emotion was surging in his heart, a passionate desire to acquire that staff at all costs. He was astounded by the power the piece of wood held. Surely this staff was an exceedingly powerful Egyptian weapon. Kim knew the simple Hebrews had no idea about this staff. The walking stick was not just a staff, but an Egyptian wand, a weapon by which to control the chaos of his God set. He was only a boy of 13, but he knew if he could get his hands on the staff, he might be able to wrest the birthright from his older brother, watch closely for weakness in his father, and when the time was right, take the throne from Ramses. He knew if he could control the power of the law, he would one day control not only the whole of Egypt, but also the entire world. So that's just the introduction to Kemet, and as it goes through the story, it gets more in-depth, I think, as his read, and a lot of what I want to address in these books is the basic human emotions that we all have, which in this one is definitely the greed that people have, and so how it builds into something really bitter. So I can read the first scene where the main character is introduced if you'd like. It's not real long, but might as well. Yes. I got a captive audience. This is the present of St. John's, Portland, Oregon. Nick Banner coughed lightly as he exhaled a thin cloud of smoke. He just couldn't seem to get the hang of the cigarette thing. He tossed his half-burned cigarette on the ground and scuffed the butt to smithereens. Then he pressed play on his smartphone. The singer wailed about being an angry rat stuck in a cage. Boy, do I know what he's talking about. Maybe I wouldn't be so mad if so many things in my life didn't suck. All the suckiness started almost 14 years ago on the day Nick was born. That was the day he killed his mom. Well, he hadn't killed her in the strictest sense of the word, but the fact that his birth guaranteed her death did not help him sleep any better at night. As if God hadn't dealt him a bad enough hand with his mom dying and all, his dad went missing when Nick was only 6 years old. Granted, his dad being gone was not one of those typical deadbeat dad kinds of missing, but either way, he hadn't tossed around a whole lot of baseballs with his dad, had he? Nick did know the details surrounding his dad's disappearance, but he was very sure that someday, when the right opportunity came his way, he'd find out why his dad was gone, just not today. Today his focus was on ditching Ron and Jean Rook, his latest in a long line of foster parents. They were not the worst foster parents he'd ever had, but that didn't mean he wanted to crash a party with them in tow. Not the biggest party this summer. All he had to do was make up a story they would buy. Maybe an overnight trip to the coast will do the trick. Nick unconsciously swept a few strands of light brown hair out of his eyes and continued walking. He was after all going to be 15 in a few days, and he should be able to do whatever he wanted. He was getting close to being an adult, and he had been on his own for a long time anyway. Come to think of it, most of the adults he saw around him didn't even act like adults. So who cared if a kid pretended to be an adult once in a while? Not his dead mom, not his missing dad, and not his foster parents. Most likely, no one would care about his pretensions or about anything he did. Actually, if Nick turned up missing, there was only one person who would miss him, his friend and mentor, Gabe Reed. Everyone else in life wanted something from Nick. It was either part of their job or part of their set of responsibilities, but Gabe's time was unpaid and freely given. Nick was pretty certain Gabe cared about him. In fact, Nick kind of liked Gabe, even if Gabe could be a little weird about this whole church thing. Lost in his thoughts, Nick didn't notice the man in the expensive-looking suit with the high-dollar haircut dash out of the door of a nearby bookstore until he bowled Nick over, knocking him to the sidewalk. Nick's anger flashed as he got back to his feet, yelling angrily, "Watch where you're going, jerk." He ignored the disapproving looks he got from the passerby. An elderly woman, frightened by his outburst, fled to the other side of the street. Nick was all set to cut loose with a few more choice words, but when he turned around, the man was gone. Huh? No man? No high-dollar haircut, no expensive suit, no nothing. Just a really fast jerk in a really big rush. He brushed the dirt off his jeans and glanced curiously inside the store, as if he might be able to determine what caused the guy to run out in such a hurry. Maybe he was dying of boredom and had to get out quickly. Nick saw nothing but randomly placed stacks of books and thick layers of dust throughout the store. Still, something urged Nick to reach out, grab the old brass handle, and slowly swing the door open. "Hello?" Nick whispered in his best library voice through the opening of the door. "Anybody here?" "Idiot, I don't have to whisper. It's not like this is a library or anything." "Hello?" Nick yelled in his best cafeteria voice into the dusty space. Only silence. Guess it won't hurt to check things out a little. The rest of Nick's body followed his head through the door, and before he realized it, he was fully in the shop with the old door latch making a small click as the door closed him in. There were scattered stacks of books on the floor. They resembled a very confused game of Jenga. All the bookshelves seemed overwhelmed by the weight of the books they supported, as well as the dust that rested on each shelf. You could see dust particles swirling through beams of sunlight that fought their way through the store's dirty panes of glass. If Nick had been a little less impulsive or a little more thoughtful, he might have taken time to wonder what had caused these particles of dust to be disturbed from their place of rest. But his immediate impression was, this place is a trash heap, I ain't hanging around. As Nick turned to head out the back door, or back out the door, he was startled to hear, can I help you, son? Nick jumped a little at the sound of the voice and turned quickly to see who the voice belonged to. He saw an old woman between 60 and 80 years old with shining silvery gray hair. The old lady looked so frail that she might drop dead at any moment, but her eyes were a fierce and bright blue that still had life in them. The woman was standing next to some orange curtains that must have hidden a doorway to the back room. Nick stammered response. I was just looking around was the best he could do. Take your time, Nick. You might even find some very interesting items, the woman spoke in a soft, gentle voice. Thanks, Nick mumbled as he turned and lifted an old book off the top of a tall stack of books. He ran his finger over the spine of the book while blowing the dust off the cover. Nick suddenly turned back to the old lady. How do you know my name? He asked in an empty room. The only movement in the room was a slight ripple in the curtains as if a light breeze had blown through them. No old woman, no doorway, no blue eyes, no nothing. A little aggravated by the way people kept disappearing on him, Nick strode over the curtains, pulled them aside, and was surprised to see nothing.
That's a good one.